I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about, do I assume that we're broken up and keep the silence?
A lot of relationships and how they end are not very cut and dry. So sometimes things fade out in weird ways and we don't even know if we're together still or if we're broken up.
It's so weird when that happens, but it happens a lot more than you think. So today we've got an email coaching. It's got a lot going on here. Now, the interesting thing about this one is that I did the email coaching and Coach Victoria did a Skype call with him.
Right, so we have some insight. We have met this person, talked to this person. Give you
Now,
some personal ideas.
Yeah, I did a Skype call with him, I think years ago. But, you know, sometimes people worry that if they do a call with you and then me, that it's going to upset us.
Oh, you know.
No, we don't care at all. Please, we don't get upset by wanting different opinions because you might see a situation and have different opinions than I might, right?
Right.
So we don't mind at all. If you do a coaching with Victoria or myself, please don't worry. We're not going to be upset at all. And people said to me, I'm glad you said that because I felt guilty. I felt like I was being unloyal. No, that's fine. You're loyal to the team.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Just don't write any handwritten letters. That's when we'll really come for you.
And sometimes it can be confirming if you do speak with us individually, and sometimes a lot of things line up. We'll be like, oh, well, Craig said that. Oh, well, Victoria said that. Okay, so we're having kind of some similar ideas about the situation.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll be like, what did Victoria say about this?
Yeah, so what did Craig say?
Yeah, because you want to know, and then because see if we're on the same track and seeing the same things. So this is an interesting one. This is from a guy that is in his early 50s, and he was dating a woman in her late 40s. Now, she has quite a few children, okay? It's not a dozen. It's a half dozen.
And they're in various stages of life. Right?
Yes.
Some of which still live there.
Yes, exactly.
With her.
And they're both divorced. And it sounds like they were dating for about 5 months or so. But this is pretty interesting stuff that goes on here. Okay, so he says that the major problem is her avoidance and her hot and cold behavior or lying. So the thing is that it was really tough to try and figure out, is she being hot and cold or is there lying going on here? Because it's pretty suspicious. He says, I cannot seem to determine if that is the case or not, meaning the lying. She started out very interested, so much in common, and even would come over periodically when she could escape the kids for an hour. So that's that excitement in the beginning. She's got the kids at home. She's like, I'm going to get some cigarettes. And she went out for more than cigarettes. She went out for that 7th kid.
No.
Only had one date in February because she's so busy with her kids and grandkids. Okay, so that would be very frustrating, only one date.
A handful. And it's hard to date, you know, when you have 2 different families, right? It can be hard to manage your family, your partner's family, time with your kids, their time with their kids.
Now, he also has kids. He has 3, okay? And that's part of that's going to come out into the story here. So he says, she invited me on a family vacation with her and her youngest in February, and it was good. Then she started ghosting me completely a few weeks ago, calling me insecure and passive-aggressive when I'd ask what's up and when are we getting together.
So we talk about things that can trigger those with more avoidant attachment styles, and vacations can be one of them. The confusing thing is sometimes they call it, right? Sometimes they want to go on vacation. Sometimes they even plan it.
Yeah.
Right? And that amount of intensity and closeness can be too much. You see a lot of avoidants bite off more than they can chew, right? They can seem very eager in relationships. They can say things like, yes, I want marriage and I want to blend our families and kind of go on the next step, right? But sometimes they aren't able to handle the steps and the intimacy through those steps that it takes to get there.
Yep. And overwhelms them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but also, I don't like the fact that she's calling him passive aggressive and insecure, right? Just because he's trying to ask when are we going to get together. I mean, he only saw her one time in a month. I'm giving my exclusivity up for this relationship. I'm not going to be eager to give it up for somebody who only is making time to see me once in a month, right? You got to consider that.
And I remember speaking with him, and part of the problem too is that he didn't really know what her schedule was because, you know, she's managing a lot of things. We'll give her that. But I gave the analogy of it's kind of like trying to cook in a new kitchen, right? You don't know where anything is. Like you're trying to make plans, but you don't really know what you're working with here. So you just try to do the best you can.
Yeah, that makes sense. He says, a few weeks ago, she canceled a date that she promised to keep, only to find out later she was at the mall and went to dinner with her goddaughter, supposedly. Okay, so now we're looking at more suspicious behavior here. I mean, it could be true. She could be at the mall with her goddaughter. Let's say it's true. She still canceled a date that she had promised to go to. And that's going to hurt somebody's feelings.
Right. And this gets tricky because from what I remember from our call, she would also sporadically want to meet up. So I don't know if it was during that event, but it sounded like she was kind of saying, oh, well, we can spontaneously, you know, meet up now. So it sounded like she might have been out doing what she said she was doing. But I agree, canceling on something and not being able to have that time management, that organization, whatever it takes to be able to say, okay, I will set aside this time for you because you are important enough and I'm prioritizing this relationship enough to show up.
And on top of that, he's going to feel hurt, like his feelings aren't that important, and she'd rather spend time with her goddaughter than him after she made a promise.
Right.
That's going to really, you know, make somebody feel like they're just not valued or cared about.
And I'll say acknowledgement goes a very far way, right? It would be very different if it was, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I double booked this. Let me make it right. I'll make it up to you. But it sounded like there was almost a nonchalant kind of, oh, I'm just going to let this slide.
I'm going to cancel this date last second to go out with my goddaughter at the mall because I feel like that instead of seeing you.
Right. It didn't sound like there was some real accountability there to say, oh, I flaked on you and, you know, I'm not a flaky person. That's not who I am, right? It sounded kind of more like, well, I'm not going to go to that. It's not a big deal, you know.
Exactly. Like his feelings aren't important. He says, I went to the movies anyway, so I'm assuming it's about the movies. He didn't say it in the sentence before. When she asked me to come say hi. I guess maybe they were near each other at the mall or something. He said, I didn't, of course. A few days later, she called, asked who I went to the movies with. Okay, this is important. And expressed how much she loves me. Thanked me for being so patient and how perfect I am for her, and she doesn't want to lose me. If you don't think that her behavior and her apology is directly tied to her thinking he was out with another woman, I've got a bridge to sell you.
It seemed to me like a bit of a panic response, right?
Exactly.
A jealousy response.
Yeah, all of a sudden, who'd you go to that movie with? She's thinking, he didn't go by himself. Oh my gosh, I blew it. He went with someone else. And now she's scared, made her interest level go up. No doubt about it. Between this and her second youngest child leaving home and hasn't been back. Okay, so you know a little bit about that situation. One of the children left the home.
It sounded like a runaway situation. And so typically teens can be rebellious, right? But for a teen to want to leave the home probably says something about the home environment, the family systems, the family dynamics that are at play there. I know teens can be difficult. Any parent of teens knows that, right? However, they can be products of their environment too. right?
Oh, yeah.
So just keep that in mind. When I heard that and when I heard this in the call, it sounded like what he observed was a positive relationship between her and her kids. But we know that when it's about families, when it's about upbringing, that it can get really messy, right? There can be a lot of unresolved issues that are there. There can be a lot of things that happen from early on that resentments have grew throughout the years, and there can be a public portrayal of what a family system looks like, and there can be family secrets, a whole nother story happening internally.
Absolutely. And it's a concern for me. It's a red flag in my book.
Mm-hmm.
He said, okay, and that child had not come back home yet. He said, so I kind of understood canceling, but Monday before Easter, she completely ghosted me. I assumed she was grieving, only to run into her at the ice cream shop with another guy and his 2 daughters. So this is when I started to really think, okay, now we're seeing some pretty suspicious behavior. Mm-hmm. According to him, it was a friend of the family, right?
Right. It sounded like she tried to clarify things, but from what I remember, she took her time in clarifying things, right?
Yeah. And this next part's important too. Let's read this next part too before we talk a little bit more, because this is really important. She nervously introduced us as my friend Larry, let's call the other guy Larry, and my friend Barry, him being Barry. So we got Larry and Barry. So he's Barry. Mm-hmm. He bumps into her at the ice cream shop. She's with she bumps into him with this guy and his 2 kids, mm-hmm. and he has one of his kids. Barry has one of his kids too. But imagine that meeting. Oh, this is my friend Larry. Oh, and this is my other friend Barry. Instead of saying, oh, Larry, this is Barry, the guy I was telling you about. We've been going out for 4 months, and we haven't seen each other in a while because I've been so busy. But making Barry feel comfortable. Instead, what happens? She gave me a hug and introduced herself to my son. But we left and didn't engage because I'd assumed she's been seeing another guy.
And I don't blame him. Part of the issue I had here was that she did wait to clarify who that person was. You kind of have to think, well, in that kind of a situation, did she have some kind of do with all to think about how he might have felt in that moment, to think about what he might have been thinking, mm-hmm. to kind of set the record straight sooner rather than later, right? I'm just thinking if it were me, I would say, oh, call him right after and say, hey, I know that might have looked really bad. That might have looked really strange. This is what's going on.
Immediately.
Right.
Like
right.
you would not want them to leave upset thinking the wrong thing. If you're really interested in somebody, you're going to be like, Larry, hang on for a minute. I got to go talk to Barry real quick.
You want to be able to fix things sooner because the other person most likely is going to be there with anxiety, questioning things, upset, hurt, whatever it might be. So just letting things kind of linger, and especially if you were doing anything wrong. Right?
Exactly.
You want to be able to clear things up, clear up the air.
Yeah, of course. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying when you look at all this behavior, it looks really suspicious. Mm-hmm. Okay? Later that night, she texted me to say how cute my child is. Next night, she asked why I didn't talk to her and why I had been ignoring her. And the guy was a family friend. Okay, so again, why not clarify that right away? She waits a couple days. It's not a comfortable feeling. You're going to be thinking, oh, I just caught her on a date.
Right.
Unless somebody clarifies that and makes you feel like, whoa, you're important to me. This relationship is important. I want you to know who this is. Right. You're going to feel like, oh, wow. This is why she's been ghosting me. This is why she didn't go to the movies with me and cancel with her goddaughter.
Right, and I'm seeing very little consideration here and very little forethought. Right, it seems like a situation happens, she flakes, there might be a misunderstanding, but then it seems like the focus here is on damage control rather than being assertive and being preventative of the person that you're dating feeling crappy.
Exactly.
Right? Most people would want to prevent that from happening in the first place. In a lot of these situations, it seems like, something happens and then it's, oh, you're not getting the right idea. And it's like, wait a minute. This all could have been prevented, right?
Yeah.
It could have had some follow-up. A simple text just to say, hey, I haven't replied, busy with family friends, with social events going on. It would have made a lot more sense, right?
Exactly. It's like the actions and the words aren't lining up here. And that's why it's so frustrating. And that's why it makes it tough to tell if she's lying about these things. Is she really out with the goddaughter? Is she out with this other dude? I mean, the next thing he says here is that supposedly his wife made dinner but stayed behind, meaning didn't go to the ice cream shop. Is it possible? Yeah. But why not clarify it in the moment? Why let Barry go home thinking that she's on a date with another guy? Why not claim him kind of right then and there? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would think that would be what you do. Because everybody's going to recognize right away, oh, this is going to look bad.
Right. And it's also quite a big moment. The person that you've been dating for several months, now you're meeting their child. And, it's a moment, right? Sometimes, and I've seen this in other relationships where you meet parents unexpectedly, right? You don't expect to meet them, but it's like, oh, well, we just had to pick up stuff at her house and the parents were there, ended up greeting them. You take advantage of the moment when you're in it, right? I think many of you, if you happen to accidentally meet your partner's parents, you wouldn't say, oh, shoot, I'm running away, close the door, or be rude to them, or, not present your relationship as it is, right? Many of you would just say, oh, by the way, Mom, I know this might be early, but this is, Bobby, or whatever it is, right? Barry, Bobby, Larry.
Gary. Harry. Difficult to believe, but I told her it was just awkward. And my child hadn't met her, so it wasn't the right setting. Sent a good morning text and pic on Holy Thursday. She emphasized and then ghosted again on Holy Thursday. She ghosted him. The irony. She's the Holy Ghoster. We have the Holy Ghoster and the Holy Ghost on the holiest of days. And he's thinking, holy, and didn't answer a call. I sent her a text that evening reminding her of all the great stuff she said a week earlier. Nothing. This is what I'm saying, guys. It's like bumping into her at the ice cream place wouldn't look so bad if there would have been some clarification or we didn't have all this ghosting going on.
Right.
Yep,
she's definitely leaving him guessing.
She sent a happy Easter text, Easter night. So what is that, a few days later? I replied the same an hour later. She texted about her day and her child not coming home yet. I replied that they will and to keep it together for the family. Today she texted and updated that she's been going to daily mass and her child finally did text her. I said, great news. She replied, just thought you needed an update and she's trying to find her way. I replied, good for you, and I know you will. No official breakup, but silent until and unless she reaches out. Do I assume we're broken up and she's been lying and keep the silence? Or should I ask her what's going on and check in periodically to see how she's doing? Okay, so obviously there is a lot going on here. And, she's lying, she's telling the truth. Does it matter? In one sense, it doesn't to me, because he's still being neglected, regardless if it's all true. She is still ghosting him, and he's still thinking that he's exclusive with somebody that he's not seeing or really hearing from.
Right. And I agree.
So it doesn't matter so much if it's true or if it's a lie, because at the end of the day, she's not showing up.
Right.
She's the Holy Ghoster.
And it makes you question, what is her functioning like in other areas of life? You know that she can't be this unreliable with work, with her kids, obviously with, a family friend or whoever else it might be. Most people don't really respond to spontaneity all the time all that well, right? You can't just spontaneously show up to work and be like, oh, today I had some time, right? And so you have to ask yourself, where in her list of priorities is relationships, and is this relationship? And so that's a lot of what we talked about. And just thinking about his options here moving forward, right? Towards the end, it started to be like he was putting in a lot more of that emotional labor. He was starting to set up the dates, trying to figure out a time to meet. And when it's just met with somebody being vague and somebody being unclear, that really demotivates somebody.
Yeah.
Why would you want to keep, putting in the time to set up these dates? And in some of the scenarios that we talked about, he had been investing time, money, emotional energy into these things that have just kind of, washed up to shore, weren't taken advantage of, just kind of, left to waste because this person wasn't able to follow through.
And I think it's made it so tough because she'll say such nice things to him every once in a while. But as we could see, I think a big part of that was her being afraid that she had lost him when she thought he went on another date.
Right.
But, at the end of the day, she's not really showing up. She's ghosting him. She's taking her time to reply. And yes, obviously, she's got a lot going on with her home situation. But it's not that hard to have a 5-minute conversation with somebody and just say, this is what's been going on. I know this has been really tough on you. Showing some care and concern beyond just this fear of losing him.
Right. And here it's a good example of emotional breadcrumbing. It's not just the messages, but each message is emotionally heavy. I love you. Thank you for being patient. But there's no real accountability here or any kind of change. Or here, let me make it up to you. Here, let's set a date. Yes, let's, make some changes to make this relationship work. And so, with him, a lot of what we talked about is also long term. Where is this heading? And one of the first things that I had told him off the bat is that this creates a power dynamic in a relationship, right? When somebody is super flaky and the other person is putting in a lot of the effort to try to set up time, to just try to have some quality time with their partner, then one person is at the other's whim, right? There's kind of that dependence of, well, we only hang out when she spontaneously shows up or when she's ready or when I run into her, right? So that doesn't create a very fair power dynamic in a relationship. And, I could see ultimately leading to much deeper issues. Yeah.
He thinks she's at home grieving. She's out at the ice cream shop with another guy.
It sounded suspicious to me, too.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Whether she's lying or not, you have to really think about the outcome. What is the outcome of this person's behavior? And I could see bigger picture here is she's not showing up. So whether she's lying or not, there's nobody there to have a relationship with.
Yep. So she's a ghoster.
She is.
She hasn't been very transparent for a ghost. Okay, so a lot going on here. Leave her alone. Let her show up like she needs to and see if she acts like an adult. But I'd really guard your heart in this situation because at best, it's very suspicious. Right? Even if she is being honest, she's still not being there for him. But at worst, who knows what's really going on? It could be a lot worse than we realize.
And you have a lot to offer. There are plenty of people out there that would see what you're willing to do in a relationship, to see that level of commitment, to see your level of follow through and match that to where you wouldn't have to play this guessing game of when are we going to connect next.
Absolutely. Okay, so hopefully this one's been helpful to you. And of course, if you want to get our help personally, you could do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Zoom calls. Coach Victoria is also available for Zoom calls.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name at the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.